Somewhere beneath the quiet sunlight of the earth, countless living jewels open their delicate arms to the sky. They breathe without lungs, drink light instead of water, and whisper to the wind in colors we can barely describe. Each petal is a masterpiece of evolution, built not only for beauty, but for survival. A silent invention that has shaped the history of life itself. Flowers are living messages, carrying the memory of ancient forests and the promise of new life to come. Inside every bloom, there are complex engines made of cells and pigments that bend sunlight into color, air into perfume, and time into seeds. There are flowers that can feel the temperature of a passing bee, ones that use electric fields to attract pollinators, and others that open only when the moon rises, guided by rhythms older than humanity. What seems like simple beauty is, in truth, a code, a design of infinite intelligence that turns chemistry into art and survival into something sacred. Before we begin, I invite you to close your eyes, let your breathing slow down, and allow my voice to guide you on a peaceful journey through the world of the flowers. Get ready to discover some of the most curious, surprising, and fascinating facts about these gentle wonders, all told in a calm, soothing way, perfect for relaxing, learning, and drifting away. Before you drift off, tell me, where are you watching from, and what time is it there? I love seeing how far this peaceful journey reaches around the world. And if you're enjoying this calm space of beauty and science, I gently invite you to subscribe, to join me on this quiet exploration of the secrets hidden in nature's smallest miracles, so you won't miss the next peaceful story we share together. Now, take a slow breath. Imagine walking through a garden after the rain. The air is soft and full of scents that carry the memory of clouds. Every drop of water resting on a petal acts like a lens, reflecting tiny worlds inside it. You can almost hear the gentle hum of bees, the heartbeat of the garden itself. Each color, each scent is a form of communication. Nature's language written not with words, but with light and chemistry. The reason flowers exist at all is love. Not the love of emotion, but the love written in the design of life. Plants discovered, millions of years ago, that survival depended on attraction. So they began to decorate themselves. Petals became banners of color, and pollen became a gift. To reproduce, they needed help, from the wind, from insects, from birds, and so began one of the most astonishing partnerships on Earth, the story of pollination. A single bee visiting a garden carries the future in the dust on its legs. It moves from bloom to bloom, guided by ultraviolet patterns invisible to human eyes. These patterns act like airport runways for insects, leading them straight to the nectar hidden within. The flower gives food. The bee gives life. This quiet trade has kept entire ecosystems alive for over 100 million years. Every fruit, every seed, every field of grass owes its existence to this delicate alliance between flower and pollinator. Look closely at a daisy. It seems like one flower, but in truth it is hundreds. Each tiny floret in the center is a separate bloom, complete with its own miniature pollen and petals. The daisy's outer circle only frames the colony inside, working together as a single form of beauty. In that single disk of yellow and white lives a miniature city, perfectly organized and endlessly busy. Some flowers remember time. The morning glory opens with sunrise and closes as shadows grow long. The lotus wakes with the dawn and folds its petals with the evening breeze. These movements aren't random. They are guided by internal clocks, biological rhythms tuned to the light of the sun. Even without eyes, flowers can sense day and night, adapting their behavior as if they too were dreaming. colors are not chosen at random either. Every hue carries a message. Blue flowers, rare and mysterious, often bloom in cooler regions where bees are the main pollinators. Red flowers call to birds instead, because many insects cannot see red light. Yellow and white blooms shine under moonlight, calling to moths who wander in the dark. The palette of a garden is not just beautiful, it's strategic, ancient, and intelligent. And then there are the scents. The perfume of a flower is more than decoration. It's chemistry shaped by evolution. Some fragrances mimic the smell of fruit to attract animals. Others resemble decay to trick flies into visiting. A rose releases its aroma through microscopic glands on the petals, each drop of oil the result of complex biochemical reactions. When you inhale the scent of a flower, you are breathing molecules that plants created to speak across species, a language of air designed to reach another living being. Some flowers even create heat. The sacred lotus can warm itself during cold mornings, producing enough warmth to attract insects seeking shelter. This warmth is generated by rapid chemical reactions in the plant's cells, a phenomenon called thermogenesis. In the snowy forests of Japan, the skunk cabbage does the same, melting the ice around it so it can bloom, while everything else still sleeps under frost. Life, it seems, always finds a way to blossom, even in the coldest silence. But not all flowers are gentle. Some are architects of illusion and trickery. The orchid family, for example, includes species that disguise themselves as female bees, fooling males into landing and spreading their pollen. Others mimic the smell of carrion, luring in flies who believe they've found a meal. The Titan arum, known as the corpse flower, is one of the largest and strangest on Earth. When it blooms, it releases a wave of heat and odor that can be felt meters away, imitating the scent of rotting flesh to attract pollinators from the jungle night. Yet, in all its oddity, it reminds us that nature's designs are not for beauty alone, but for purpose. Every petal and fragrance, every curve and color carries meaning beyond the surface. In many cultures, flowers became symbols of faith, patience, and gratitude. The Prophet Muhammad spoke of the fragrance of musk as one of the purest delights of paradise. And throughout the Islamic world, gardens filled with jasmine, rose, and tulip became reflections of that divine beauty on earth. The act of planting a flower was seen not only as cultivation, but as remembrance, a way of caring for the creation that cares for us. The structure of a flower itself speaks of harmony. At its center lies the pistil, the heart, the receiver and giver of new life. Surrounding it are the stamens, bearers of pollen, like guardians protecting the treasure within. Around them, the petals form layers of protection and attraction, each one placed in perfect geometric order. Fibonacci spirals, golden ratios, and invisible patterns that echo through all creation. Even in its smallest details, the flower is a mirror of the universe. Order within chaos, beauty born of necessity. When we look at a blooming field, we are not just seeing color. We are witnessing communication. Flowers speak to the wind, to insects, to soil, and to sunlight. They are translators between worlds, turning minerals into life, light into scent, and silence into celebration. Without them, the earth would lose not only its food but its poetry. So tonight, as we journey deeper into the secret life of flowers, keep your breathing calm. Let your mind drift among petals, colors, and fragrances. The garden is vast, and every bloom has a story. If you could shrink yourself to the size of a pollen grain and walk among the inner walls of a flower, you would see something extraordinary. You would find a living cathedral of light and structure. Cells arranged like stained glass, bending sunlight into color and strength. Each petal is covered with microscopic ridges that reflect and scatter light, creating the shimmering glow that catches the eye of bees and butterflies. Even what seems soft and fragile is an act of design, perfected by millions of years of quiet experimentation. Flowers are far more aware of their surroundings than we once believed. They sense light, temperature, humidity, and even touch. When a bee lands on a bloom, subtle electrical signals travel through its tissues, a silent pulse that tells the plant it has been visited. Within minutes, the flower can reduce its nectar production to save energy, waiting until the next visitor arrives. This responsiveness is a form of awareness, not thought as we know it, but a quiet intelligence written into their very structure. Some flowers even anticipate the weather. Tulips close tightly before a storm. Dandelions fold during rain to protect their seeds. Morning glories open as the first light appears and close as dusk approaches. They do not think, yet they respond, as though tuned to a symphony of light and air that we can only begin to perceive. There are blooms that live without ever seeing the sun. Deep within tropical forests, ghost orchids bloom in the shadows, suspended like pale spirits in the air. They have no leaves, feeding through roots that cling to the bark of trees and absorb moisture from the mist. Some bloom only once every few years, their brief radiance a secret gift to the patient observer. In the desert, flowers sleep beneath the sand for decades, waiting for the right rainfall. When it finally arrives, the barren ground transforms overnight. Valleys once empty become oceans of color, yellows, violets, and reds stretching to the horizon. These super blooms are miracles of timing, showing that patience is not stillness but strength. The seeds never lose hope. They simply wait for their moment to return. Beneath the waves, flowers bloom too, though they look different from what we know. Seagrasses, which carpet shallow oceans, release pollen that drifts through water instead of air. They create meadows under the sea, feeding turtles, fish, and countless tiny creatures. Their invisible blossoms are among the most important on Earth, keeping oceans healthy and alive. Even in frozen lands, flowers find a way to live. The Arctic poppy grows where almost nothing else can, its petals shaped like a small dish to capture sunlight. It turns slowly through the day, following the sun across the low sky. This gentle motion keeps the flower warm and allows it to grow in places where temperatures barely rise above freezing. Nature, it seems, has infinite ways to say yes to life. If fragrance had a shape, it would be that of a flower. The scent of blossoms is chemistry turned into art, a language that travels through air, invisible but powerful. Every aroma you breathe comes from molecules produced by the plant to attract, protect, or communicate. Some mimic the smell of fruit to lure animals that will spread their seeds. Others imitate decay to trick insects. A rose creates its perfume through tiny glands that release oils in perfect balance, delicate enough to vanish with time, yet strong enough to fill a garden. When you breathe in that scent, you are not just enjoying beauty, you are participating in a conversation between species that has lasted for ages. The fragrance that calms your mind once guided a bee to nectar, and the same molecules that soothe your senses helped the plant survive. Nature never wastes effort. Even beauty has purpose. Throughout history, flowers have been symbols of meaning and emotion. The lotus rising from the mud became a sign of purity and renewal. The cherry blossom represented the fragile beauty of life. The sunflower, with its bright face turned toward the sky, symbolized devotion to the light. Across continents and cultures, people found comfort in petals, perhaps because flowers reflect the very rhythm of life, growing, giving, fading, and returning. Inside every bloom lies a process more intricate than any human machine. When a flower is pollinated, grains of pollen travel down its pistil, a narrow tunnel lined with living cells, to reach the ovary below. There, they merge with tiny ovules to form seeds. In that hidden exchange, new life begins. Within weeks, the flower transforms into fruit. The sweetness of peaches, the crunch of apples, the fragrance of strawberries, all start from this invisible union. A world of color and taste begins with a single grain of pollen landing on a petal. Have you ever noticed how flowers turn toward the sun? This movement, called heliotropism, helps them capture light efficiently. Sunflowers are the most famous example. During the day, their heads follow the sun's path from east to west, then reset at night to face east again. Scientists have discovered that this motion is guided by growth hormones that lengthen cells on one side of the stem more than the other. When the flower matures, it stops moving and stays facing east, warming faster in the morning and attracting more pollinators. It's not just beautiful, it's practical. The arrival of flowers on Earth transformed the planet. Before them, ferns and conifers dominated, green but simple. When flowering plants evolved, they introduced new ways to reproduce, spread, and evolve. They changed the soil, the atmosphere, and the climate. Their presence increased oxygen, stabilized ecosystems, and made fruits possible. Fruits that would one day feed animals, birds, and humans alike. The very air we breathe carries their gift. Some scientists believe flowers have their own form of memory. Studies show that certain plants learn to associate vibrations or light patterns with rewards, responding faster after repeated experiences. They don't have brains, yet they adapt, remember, and communicate. Intelligence, it seems, wears many forms, and some of them have petals. Halfway through our journey, I invite you once more to subscribe if you haven't yet. This helps our calm and curious community grow, a circle of people who love learning and finding peace in nature's quiet wonders. By subscribing, you'll be part of these peaceful explorations every time a new story blooms. Let's continue walking through this living museum of colors and forms. In the rainforests of Borneo, there lives a flower so large that it can weigh more than a newborn baby. It's called Rafflesia arnoldi, often called the corpse flower, because its enormous red bloom gives off the scent of decaying flesh. The smell, unpleasant to us, is irresistible to the flies that pollinate it. The flower has no leaves or stem. It grows hidden inside another plant, appearing only when it's ready to bloom, once every few years for only a few days. Its short, spectacular life reminds us that even the strangest designs serve a purpose. The sunflower, by contrast, is a symbol of precision. Its seed pattern follows a perfect mathematical formula called the golden ratio, allowing each seed to fit neatly without waste. This same pattern appears in hurricanes, galaxies, and even human DNA. It's as if nature uses the same blueprint everywhere, repeating its signature across all scales of creation. Some flowers are natural healers. Chamomile soothes the nerves, hibiscus supports the heart, calendula repairs the skin. Their beneficial compounds evolved not for us, but for their own defense. Yet we share in their strength. Every petal carries a small pharmacy built by evolution's patience. The more science uncovers about flowers, the more mysterious they seem. Their structures are perfect, not by chance, but by purpose. Their colors are messages, their fragrances are calls, their shapes are solutions. They are both engineers and artists, mathematicians and poets. Imagine now a meadow at sunset. The air glows with golden dust. Thousands of blossoms sway gently, each one facing the light for the final time that day. Bees hum their slow, content rhythm. The world feels balanced, complete. The flowers do not hurry, they simply exist, giving beauty and life without asking for anything in return. Flowers teach us that strength can be gentle, that patience can be powerful, that creation, in all its complexity, is also capable of simple grace. In their quiet way, they remind us to keep blooming, wherever we are planted, whatever the season. Light and life are woven together in the fabric of a flower. When sunlight touches a petal, it meets pigments, tiny molecules that drink some wavelengths and reflect others. Chlorophyll, anthocyanin, carotenoids, flavonoids, each absorbs light differently, creating the colors we see. The red of a rose, the violet of a pansy, the gold of a marigold. All are songs written in the language of photons. What we call color is actually light transformed by living chemistry. Inside the petal, the arrangement of these pigments is so precise that even a shift of a few atoms can change the entire hue. The blue of a cornflower, for example, doesn't come from a blue pigment at all, but from the way its molecules bend light, the same principle that makes the sky appear blue. When you look at a flower, you're not just seeing color, you're witnessing physics and biology performing a quiet duet. Some flowers change color as they age, signaling to pollinators that their nectar is gone or that it's time to move on. The hydrangea, however, paints its own story according to the soil. In acidic soil, its blossoms turn blue. In alkaline soil, they become pink. It's as if the flower is in constant conversation with the earth beneath it. Other blooms use color as language. A single meadow may hold dozens of species, each with its own palette of coded messages. Bees see in ultraviolet. So many petals display hidden rings or stripes invisible to humans, glowing paths that guide them straight to nectar. Butterflies are drawn to purples and reds, while bats follow the pale tones that catch moonlight. Each color, each shimmer, is part of a conversation older than words. To a bee, a garden is not a random scatter of shapes, but a living constellation of signs. What we perceive as art, nature uses as communication. Symmetry is another secret message written into every bloom. That perfect balance of form is no coincidence. It's geometry, a pattern repeated across creation. Many flowers grow in proportions that follow the Fibonacci sequence, a numerical rhythm found in seashells, pine cones, and even spiral galaxies. The number of petals on a lily, the pattern of seeds in a sunflower, the swirl of a rosebud, all echo these mathematical harmonies. The mind finds peace in such order, which may be why flowers bring calm. They mirror the balance we instinctively seek. Even a wildflower hidden between stones follows these laws. Its petals are shaped so that water rolls away effortlessly, a natural design that inspired scientists to create waterproof surfaces. Nature has been solving problems long before we learned to name them. But flowers are not just mathematicians. They are engineers of ecosystems. They feed insects, who feed birds, who sustain forests. Their nectar fuels migrations across continents. Without flowers, half of the planet's oxygen would vanish, and most of the food we know would cease to exist. When you breathe, when you eat, when you stand beneath trees, you are connected to the quiet work of blossoms. Perfume is another miracle of their design. The molecules responsible for fragrance are tiny, weightless travelers, carried easily by the wind or a passing insect. They evaporate at just the right temperature to reach our senses. When you breathe in the scent of a rose or lavender, those molecules touch receptors in your nose that link directly to memory and emotion. That's why a single whiff can transport you years into the past, or fill you with peace without you even knowing why. The chemistry of scent is also the chemistry of survival. Fragrance can attract pollinators, repel predators, and even warn nearby plants of danger. Some flowers mimic the smell of fruit. Others imitate decay to lure flies. Every aroma is a coded message written in invisible ink. The beauty of flowers lies not only in their colors and fragrances, but in their rhythm. Their rise, bloom, and fade. A flower never resists its own cycle. It opens, it gives, it rests, it returns. In its short life, it teaches patience, acceptance, and transformation. When petals fall, they feed the soil. When seeds scatter, they carry the memory of light into the dark. Nothing in a garden truly ends. Everything becomes something else. Think of the resilience hidden in that process. On mountain cliffs, tiny alpine blooms cling to bare rock, their roots gripping tight against freezing winds. In deserts, small seeds wait years for a single drop of rain before bursting into carpets of color. Even underwater, seagrass flowers open in the moving tides. Each adaptation is a victory, quiet but astonishing. Some scientists have discovered that flowers make faint vibrations, not sound in the human sense, but measurable frequencies. Bees can sense these vibrations and use them to find nectar. It's as if the flowers hum softly to announce their presence. In a world filled with noise, their music is silent harmony. Now, before we wander deeper into this field of colors and sounds, I gently remind you, if you haven't yet, subscribe to this peaceful channel. Each video is a small journey through the wonders of nature, a space to unwind, learn, and reconnect with calm curiosity. Subscribing helps this garden of stories grow and lets you return whenever you need quiet beauty. Let's continue. There was a time when flowers shaped entire chapters of human history. In the 17th century, tulips became so valuable that their bulbs were traded for fortunes. During the height of what came to be known as tulip mania, a single rare bulb could cost more than a house. When the market collapsed, people realized that beauty cannot be owned, only admired. Yet the tulip remained cherished, not for its price, but for its perfection. Flowers have also guided discovery. The first observation of pollen grains through a microscope in the 1600s changed how we understood reproduction, revealing that all living things shared a common pattern of renewal. Later, studies of color pigments in petals helped chemists create dyes, medicines, and even solar cells. Engineers have copied the way flowers open and close to design machines and robots that move efficiently, turning biology into inspiration. Still, for all our knowledge, mystery remains. We can explain the structures, the genes, the molecules, but we cannot measure the feeling of wonder that a flower awakens. Why does color stir emotion? Why does symmetry bring peace? Science describes the mechanism, but the meaning belongs to something deeper, the bond between life and beauty itself. Perhaps that is the greatest secret of the flower, that in reaching for light, it reminds us to do the same. It doesn't hurry or compare. It simply becomes what it was meant to be. Its message is quiet but clear. Grow at your own pace, give freely, and bloom even in the shadows. So as night settles over the garden, imagine standing in a meadow under silver moonlight. The air is cool and fragrant, filled with invisible songs. Thousands of blossoms rest gently, their colors softened by the dark. Somewhere in that stillness, you sense that the world is complete. Nothing missing, nothing rushed. The night is peaceful, the flowers are awake, and their secrets are safe in the breeze. If you could trace the history of life backward, you would eventually reach a moment when the first flower bloomed on Earth. Scientists believe this happened more than 140 million years ago, when dinosaurs still walked among ferns and conifers. Those first blossoms were small and modest, nothing like the dazzling shapes we see today, but they changed everything. With them came fruit, seeds, and sweetness. The invention of the flower transformed the planet, feeding animals, spreading forests, and painting the land in color for the first time. It was nature's greatest revolution, soft, fragrant, and silent. Since then, flowers have evolved into endless forms. Some have learned to bloom underwater. Others survive high in the thin air of mountains. There are flowers that feed on sunlight, and others that feed on flesh. The pitcher plant, for example, grows a cup-shaped leaf that traps insects with nectar, then digests them to gain nutrients missing from its soil. The Venus flytrap does the same, closing its jaws in less than a second when tiny hairs on its surface sense movement. Even among beauty, there is hunger, a reminder that survival and grace often coexist. But not all adaptations are cruel. Some flowers live entirely through cooperation. The yucca and the yucca moth depend completely on one another. The moth lays its eggs inside the flower and, in the process, pollinates it. Without the moth, the yucca could not reproduce. Without the yucca, the moth would have no home. Their lives are perfectly balanced, like two notes of the same song. And then there are flowers that move in ways we barely notice. The touch-me-not closes its leaves at the lightest touch, an elegant act of defense powered by changes in water pressure within its cells. Others slowly turn their faces throughout the day, following the sun. Some even release fragrances at precise hours, timing their scent to when their pollinators are awake. These rhythms, synchronized with daylight, wind, and moonlight, make every garden a living clock. Beneath the ground, roots communicate too, through a network of fungi known as the Wood Wide Web. Plants share information, sending chemical signals that warn of drought or disease. A field of flowers may appear silent, but beneath the soil, there is conversation, a web of care linking one plant to another. Scientists have found that flowers growing together can even coordinate their blooming, adjusting their timing so that pollinators never go hungry. It is cooperation at the level of instinct, an invisible harmony that keeps life in balance. In this delicate exchange, the human heart finds a mirror. We too thrive when we cooperate, when we share energy, when we grow beside one another. Flowers remind us that beauty is never only for itself. It exists to nourish something beyond. Color and scent, form and rhythm. All of these are languages of attraction and generosity. The brilliant hues draw the eye of an insect, but they also draw our own hearts toward calm. Psychologists have found that looking at flowers can reduce stress, lower blood pressure, and increase focus. Their symmetry and color patterns stimulate areas of the brain related to comfort and creativity. Even artificial images of flowers have been shown to lift mood. proving that their influence goes beyond biology into the realm of emotion. Think of how each season rewrites the story of the land. In spring, blossoms burst from branches still cold with winter. In summer, they open wide, releasing clouds of fragrance that hum with bees and life. In autumn, their petals fade, yet their seeds scatter hope into the soil. And in winter, beneath frost and silence, those seeds rest like dreams waiting to wake. The garden never dies. It only sleeps and breathes again. The science of pollination is full of wonder. Some flowers can shoot their pollen into the air with the force of a miniature explosion, sending it meters away. Others use static electricity. When a bee's body brushes against petals, the pollen jumps toward it like magnetized dust. There are even flowers that rely on sound. Studies have shown that certain species produce more nectar when they sense the frequency of a bee's wings nearby. It's as if they can hear. What a world this is, where petals listen and bees sing, where color has purpose and scent is memory. The more we look, the more intelligence we find in the smallest things. Every part of a flower tells a story of precision. The stigma at the center collects pollen like a gentle net. The ovary beneath holds the blueprint of the next generation. The petals, shaped by wind and DNA, are aerodynamic shields designed to protect and attract. Even the stem that holds the bloom has sensors that measure gravity, allowing it to stand upright no matter how it bends. Evolution has sculpted each detail into harmony. Yet, for all its science, a flower still feels like art. It has no agenda but to open, no demand but to be seen. In its brief life, it expresses something eternal: the courage to bloom, the willingness to change, the quiet acceptance of time. Take the cherry blossom. It blooms for only a few days each year, and then the petals fall like soft snow. People gather beneath them, not because they last, but because they don't. The fleeting beauty of flowers reminds us to slow down, to appreciate moments not for their length, but for their depth. A blooming tree may live only a week in color, but that week is enough to fill hearts for months. There are flowers that never fade. The Edelweiss, growing high in the Alps, keeps its soft white form long after it dries, preserved by tiny hairs that protect it from the cold. Its endurance became a symbol of strength, not fragility, proof that softness and resilience can exist together. In laboratories around the world, scientists are still learning from flowers. The patterns of their petals inspire materials that capture light more efficiently. The waxy texture of lotus leaves has led to waterproof surfaces that clean themselves. Even the way pollen sticks to insects has inspired new types of adhesives. Flowers are not only decoration, they are blueprints for the future, and yet they remain what they have always been: small miracles of light and color. Whether growing from cracks in concrete or in endless fields, they bring quiet joy to anyone who stops long enough to notice. That pause, that single breath of appreciation, is what connects us to them. Imagine walking through a valley where thousands of flowers move with the breeze. The sound is soft, just the rustle of stems, the hum of distant insects, the heartbeat of earth itself. The light shifts through their petals, and suddenly everything feels connected: the soil, the wind, the water, you. In that moment, it's clear that beauty was never a luxury. It was always a necessity, a form of nourishment for the mind. Even at night, flowers do not sleep the way we do. Some close their petals to protect their nectar, while others, like the moonflower and evening primrose, open only when the world grows quiet. They are pollinated by moths and bats. bats, creatures of the dark that carry life from one bloom to another. While we rest, the night garden continues its patient work. One of the most mysterious things about flowers is how they know when to bloom. Inside every seed lies a set of chemical sensors that measure day length and temperature. When conditions are right, a signal is sent through the plant's cells, activating genes that tell it to flower. It's not random. It's timing written into their very DNA, perfected over millions of years. Even after fire or drought, they wait until the right moment, then return with quiet confidence. The garden always finds its way back. Perhaps that's why we are drawn to flowers in every part of life. For celebrations, for remembrance, for comfort. They mark our beginnings and our endings, our joy and our sorrow. When words fail, we send flowers. Because they speak with a language older than speech. Their message is always the same. You are not alone. Life continues. In the end, a flower is both a question and an answer. It asks us to look closer, to notice, to wonder. And in doing so, it answers the part of us that longs for peace, balance, and belonging. As we near the end of this journey, take one more slow breath. Imagine a single flower, whichever comes to your mind. See its colors, its shape, its stillness. Feel the quiet intelligence inside it, the patience it took to open. Let that image stay with you, like a soft light within. When you're ready, I invite you to carry this calm into your day or your dreams. Let the world around you feel a little softer, a little slower, a little more alive. And if you've enjoyed this peaceful exploration through the secret life of flowers, I'd love for you to stay connected, to subscribe, and join me again in future journeys through the hidden wonders of our world. Each story, like each blossom, opens another layer of beauty waiting to be seen. Thank you for walking through this garden with me tonight. May your thoughts be light, your heart calm, and your dreams filled with color. Wherever you are, the flowers are blooming somewhere. And their quiet message is always the same. Keep growing toward the light.